What's up, guys? I'm Estelle Mustios. I'm the editor-in-chief for The Mercury.
And I'm Nidhi Godke. I'm the managing editor.
We're doing something new this year where we have video features that go along with some of the main stories that we're telling in the paper.
And for the June 8th issue, we interviewed members of the Muslim community to show what it's like to be Muslim in America in light of recent events. We hope you enjoy the video.
All right, we're here a few blocks away from the Caldwell Center in Garland, where earlier today, 2 gunmen were shot and killed after opening fire at an exhibit that was depicting arts of the Prophet Muhammad. As you can see, I'm going to turn on this camera. I apologize for the poor quality. I had to do this at the last moment. Police have blocked off all access within about 2 blocks of the center. There's no way we can get... When 2 gunmen opened fire outside of an art exhibit displaying cartoon depictions of the Prophet Muhammad, Noor Sharaf's heart filled with dread. The neuroscience senior knew people would immediately blame her community.
I kind of knew that that's what was going to happen, but I also had faith that maybe they'll look into it a little more and maybe that they'll uncover the truth. Because whatever happened with the Garland shooting was horrible, but the event itself was also horrible.
Right.
Like the fact that you want to kind of piss people off, and the fact that you got no response from them and then still found a way to kind of blame it back on them was a little irritating to the Muslim community because we didn't respond to it. We thought if this woman wants to say that she's doing freedom of speech and it's her right to hold this competition, then it's her right to hold the competition. Sure, no one's going to care. But even after that, when we didn't respond, to find a way to put it on Muslims was kind of the irritating part about it.
Sharaf, who is the Sisters Activities Coordinator for the UTD chapter of the Muslim Student Association, said Muslims are often the targets of harassment and other forms of discrimination.
Have you ever personally felt threatened because of your faith in any way?
I don't want to say threatened to the point where I felt like I was unsafe. But yeah, I mean, I've heard comments here and there, especially because I wear the headscarf. It's called the hijab. I've heard comments like, why are you wearing that? You should take it off. You should go back to your country. Stuff like that. But really, once you know what happens, it's harder to get to you because you just understand that people come from a different mentality, and anything that they don't understand becomes a threat or becomes scary to them. So they don't really understand it and they're just acting out of fear. But I've never felt like I was threatened just because I kind of understand that. But I know that people have felt that way, and I know that people have died just because of the fact that they were Muslim or the fact that they hold any kind of religious perspective whatsoever, not just being Muslim.
Yeah.
Alia Salem, the executive director for the Dallas-Fort Worth chapter of the Council on American Islamic Relations, said she has seen anti-Muslim sentiments rise the past few years. The reason that we're talking here today is that I guess we kind of felt that there is a stigma in modern America against Muslims. Do you feel that that statement is accurate?
Yeah, I certainly think there is a focus that is placed on the Muslim community. And in the West, it tends to have a much more narrow focus on what's happening within the United States, especially through the media reports that we're seeing and how Muslims are portrayed in the media. So that has a huge impact, and we're seeing a lot of issues of discrimination, hate crimes, and things start to increase. It's actually worse than it was post 9/11. Wow. But it has been gradually increasing, and it seems to tie in with election cycles. Yeah. So it's kind of disturbing that people are utilizing the Muslim community and elected officials from certain parties, tend to disparage, make horrible statements against Islam and Muslims in order to appeal to their base.
Part of the reason for this backlash is the perception some people have of the hijab, the traditional Muslim headscarf. So, you mentioned the headscarf or the hijab. So what really is the thinking, I guess, behind wearing the hijab?
Well, for those who believe that it is a requirement to wear hijab, they get that from first the Quran. There are especially a couple of really prominent passages in there that talk about drawing your head cover, you know, over your body and only showing, you know, what's underneath to certain family members and etc. So there's, you know, very specific rulings. And then there are also sayings and traditions of the Prophet Muhammad that, you know, kind of exemplify or explain those verses in more practical, like what does it look like, where does the clothing stop, and how should it look, and things like that. So there is scriptural support as well as tradition support from the Prophet's sayings. There are individuals who interpret that differently. There's no monolithic interpretation of that.
Right.
So you'll find communities of individuals who believe that it's obligatory and people who don't believe it's obligatory.
Right.
And there's lots of reasons for that. But the essence of wearing hijab is for maintaining your modesty and not putting it on display for those who don't have any right to see that.
Another major reason for the negative perception of Muslims is the growth of Islamic militant groups like ISIS and Boko Haram. Sharaf said that many people don't understand that these groups don't represent the wider Muslim community.
And speaking of people thinking that Muslims are extremists and associating Islam with groups like ISIS, what would your response be to people when they say things like that?
Just, you know, don't believe everything you hear, because the thing about, and you bring it back to ISIS, you mentioned ISIS, and I'm going to bring it back to that a little, because people do associate Muslims with those kinds of groups. But really those kind of groups, if you look at them, they target a lot of Muslims as well. And the reason is because they have nothing to do with Islam. It's just something that I feel like they themselves have wanted to bring a bad image to Islam, so they've put their name strongly related to Islam, so that when people look at it, they can be like, oh, Muslims are horrible people. But really, I feel like you just can't believe everything you hear. You have to do your own research. You have to get to know Muslims in your community, because especially at UTD or especially in Plano, where I've lived in Frisco, there's a huge Muslim community. I know everyone has at least one Muslim neighbor. And if you don't give yourself the chance to get to know these people, then the only thing that you'll be able to hear about them is what you hear in the media or what you see on TV. So it's important to get to know your Muslim community, just on a very shallow, basic level, just at least so you can understand that whatever is being said about them isn't necessarily the truth.
Shahir Ali, the president of the UTD chapter of Alpha Lambda Mu, the nation's only Muslim fraternity, said these groups prey on the ignorance of their recruits. So you have these groups like ISIS, Al-Qaeda, Boko Haram in Africa, that all use Islam as an outlet to carry out their crimes, their acts. Why do you think that is?
Well, okay, so the reason I think that is because, like I said, there's always going to be an agenda that people want to push among other people. And at the end of the day, it comes down to having a sense of power or right among others and promoting their own agenda, whether or not it's supported within Islam and the boundaries of Islam. But if the outside community isn't educated or doesn't know what any principle truly means and what it is, then I could sit here and tell you something and you might believe it and go with it, right? Which it might offend you or you might agree with it. So the issue is these people want to achieve a goal that the majority of Muslims don't support at all. However, in those regions, it's not that stable. So there's a sense of power, a sense of control that comes over there. And they use these agendas in order to basically get what they want. And by pushing away Western thoughts, by seeing Westerners as the, infidels or basically completely the opposite, and they want to stick to the fundamental beliefs of Islam and twist even that to serve their own purposes, which all in all, if you come down to it, I truly believe, if you want to ask me my opinion, I truly believe that they have no right nor true purpose into doing what they are doing.
Ali said the Muslim community must do more to show others they are members of American society. What do you feel is the biggest challenge for going forward for other people like you who live in this country?
Yeah, and I'm glad you mentioned it like that because, yeah, I was born here. I'm American Muslim. Yeah. I belong, you know, I don't say I'm Pakistani first. I say I'm American.
Right.
You know, this is where I grew up. So the problem going forward from here is our, like specifically my generation, taking the steps necessary to evolve from the communication aspect and show more demonstrations or more efforts in different methods, creative methods, to represent who we truly are. I believe that's the next issue. Now, the problem that is at our forefront right now is being able to be identified as American Muslim, as Muslim American, you know, almost getting back that sense of feeling that this was home and that we belong here inherently just as much as any other American does. And so that'll take its own time, but I feel like that's our next issue, is using our own background to show and represent who Americans are and who Muslims are, because you know, blending the culture of America is very different than, you know, bringing in the culture of a Pakistani or an Indian or Somali or anything like that. And, you know, ALM, once again, like the beauty of it is that we're all, you know, we all come from diverse backgrounds, but we're all American as well. We're born here, or we were raised here, or we've gone through school here. And so it's yes, I identify myself as American. It's the issue is, well, the others, you know, other people saying, accepting and bringing back that feeling that yes, you know, we're all Americans here, we're all Muslim, we're all on the same side. That's what I would say, is getting to that part.
Despite the struggles she's experienced as a Muslim in America, Salem says she is still hopeful conditions can improve.
As dark as it seems right now, from my vantage point, I do see these glimmers of hope. I want to see people from all different backgrounds standing up for each other in all these cases. We need to see people who are not of the Muslim faith defending people of the Muslim faith. Because if it's just left up to the Muslims to defend themselves, of course you're going to defend yourself, right?
Yeah.
But if you don't have people around you who are insulating you and protecting you, we're a tiny percentage of this population. We're never going to be able to triumph if we don't have the support of our community at large. If we don't see, you know, people from all different walks of life, you know, going against anti-Black racism or police brutality, if we don't have people from all walks of life contributing to that issue to solve that problem, we will not see the end of it. It can't be only people who are African American defending themselves and trying to stand up for themselves. Everybody has to stand up for that injustice. Immigration issues or Latino discrimination. All of these types of things have to be addressed from community issues. And if we don't start collectively, you know, formalizing these coalitions of basically justice-oriented individuals who are going after justice no matter what the situation is, we will not see an end to this cycle of violence that we're perpetuating upon ourselves.
So it's not even a Muslim issue, it's just an issue of people trying to do the right thing in general.
Yeah, absolutely. There's a passage in the Quran, I alluded to it earlier, and it says, stand up for justice even if it's against you, your kin, or your kinship around you and your friends. That to me is like the statement that says it all. Like, you have to stand up for justice no matter what the issue is, and even if it's against yourself. When we as a community start to think of these issues as our issues, and that despite, you know, whatever background somebody's from, that if it's injustice that's happening, until we start to look at those issues as our issues, we will not see any progress. That is my firm belief. It will never happen when people of a minority group or of a singular group try to address their own issues. It has to be collectively.
For the Mercury and UTD TV, I'm Esteban Bustillos.